Welcome to Next City's webinar, How Art Can Be a Tool for Civic Revitalization. I'm Eleanor Barbe, the Integrated Sales and Marketing Coordinator for Next City, and I'll be your host today. I want to thank you for joining us, and I also want to put a special thanks out to anyone who donated to this webinar. Your Pay What You Wish donation gives us the ability to fund these events, and it means that we're able to continue to bring these important events, conversations to you all year, and also just talk about how we can make cities more equitable. It also helps elevate great solutions that deserve an audience like you. Today's episode is the latest in our local webinar project that focuses on Newark, New Jersey, with support from the Facebook Journalism Project and also the Lenfest Institute for Journalism. We've planned 12 webinars with Newark leaders who will share their solutions solutions for cities with you. So today I'm excited to share those leaders. Today, Rebecca Jampol and Fayemi Shakur. Rebecca is a curator, designer, and co-director of the project for Empty Space. Her work is dedicated to cultivating impactful social dialogue and change through interdisciplinary practice, fostering discourse through a variety of projects ranging from gallery work and publishing to public arts programs. Fayemi is a writer and artist and is the current Arts and Cultural Affairs Director for the City of Newark, as you might have seen in our article published today on Next City. Her work demonstrates a commitment to arts advocacy, cultural organizing, mentorship, and engaging programming in service to community. So Rebecca and Fayemi today will be discussing the Four Corners Public Arts in Newark, New Jersey, and the collaborative efforts that was key in its creation. We're going to start off with a video here. And then there's going to be about a half-hour presentation followed with a Q&A. So you'll see you have like a little questions box on your GoToWebinar panel. So you can ask questions there and we'll be sure to get them answered. So we're going to take it away now with this video.
I'm happy that we're enlivening this space for people to feel better about walking the streets.
Art tends to empower people, uplift people, and this is what we're here to do.
From the beginning, it was a huge collaboration. We really had to pull together as a team. We worked throughout a full month and have put up 14 beautiful new murals.
The title of my mural is Newark is for Artists. It's a gentle reminder of what this entire project is about and what the city is about. Newark is like a feast of art and culture. I think people are sleeping on it.
The title of my piece is Welcome Quilts. It's composed of a bunch of stenciled crocheted granny square designs in the rainbow LGBTQ colors and also a wide variety of skin tones. And it's meant to be a quilt that's a signal to people in the community that everybody is welcome here.
These photos were taken in the 1880s near the Four Corners, which is the name of this project. Little do folks know that there were free and enslaved people here building Newark, defining freedom in Newark, helping enslaved people come from the South and free themselves, make their way to Manhattan.
They were looking for someone to do historical type murals. It's all about the quilts that were designed to help
people fleeing through the Underground Railroad.
And they all have a message behind them.
My mural is called Sacred Water. There's a lot of controversy about water right now here in Newark, and I thought it was important to talk about it. This project will help to uplift the community via empowering them by beautifying their neighborhood.
I love working with poets and writers. All these metaphors and symbolism turn into puzzle pieces that I then put together. We started from love and openness and went from there.
We wanted it to be something that emulated strength, a sense of resistance and resilience, a sense of liberation struggle.
I feel this work is necessary as keepers of our city and where we are. I think it's important that everyone knows that we have a contribution that's major. Other than just painting, we have a contribution to life.
I could see the impact, and not just being for us in the local arts community, also the impact for the residents of Newark, the 1,000 students that come to school here every day in Teachers Village.
We always did believe in this street, but to see it actually come to life is unbelievable.
I wanted to say thank you to all of you, especially the artists. There's more of this to come. Newark is the city of the arts. You ain't seen nothing yet. Congratulations.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me? I'm hoping so. This is Rebecca. Thank you all for being here today to learn about Four Corners Public Arts. I just want to quickly give a huge thank you to Dreamplay Media, who produced that video, which was just released this past Monday, and you can find it on Dreamplay TV, which I'll share a link at the end of this webinar that you can find, but they also have done an excellent job with documenting arts and culture here in Newark. So we were so thrilled to be able to have that video to share with you guys today. I really feel that it captures the energy of this project and the collaborative element that really made it possible. So I'm going to get right to this presentation, and I'll read a little bit directly from the slides, but I'll also expand on some points. In 2019, Four Corners Public Arts was initiated through a public-private partnership convened to support the public arts initiatives in Newark's historic district known as Four Corners. The public-private partnership was comprised of the City of Newark, Invest Newark, Newark Downtown District, Newark Arts, RBH Group, and Paramount Assets. For those of you that are not aware, Four Corners is the intersection of Broad and Market Street in downtown Newark, and at one point it was the busiest intersection in the nation. At this moment in Newark, or prior to some of what we're experiencing now, there is quite a bit of redevelopment and rebuilding happening in the Central Ward in the core of downtown. And as this is happening, the areas that are not maintained or acknowledged are positioning quite a few challenges for those that are spending a lot of time or living in Newark. Two streets in particular, Treat Place and Beaver Street, initiated this project. Both of them are quite dilapidated. There are boarded up windows, scaffolding where pending construction is happening. Debris is loose on the streets along with garbage and other eyesores. And then during the summer months, they smell quite putrid of the garbage that's left out there, as well as there's really poor lighting. So in terms of walkability, they're quite daunting, and they have been also spaces that have accumulated crime because of these issues. For those of you that might not know or do know a little bit about Newark, Treat Place actually lives on the back end of Broad Street and faces Teachers Village, which is a development that's only a couple years old that houses 400 residential units. And there's also quite a few charter schools in the area that bring in over 1,000 children every day to go to school there. The Beaver Street location lives in the center of downtown, is closer to the Gateway Center and across the street from the Prudential Center. So it's traveled frequently by locals and commuters that are either going to take transit or going to school in downtown. And so that's also a space that hasn't been really acknowledged and is in the core of our downtown. This project really came from the community because these spaces had not been addressed yet. There was quite a few local residents and small business owners that had planted their businesses in that Treat Place section near Teachers Village that really were quite frustrated by the condition of these areas. The schools, the residents, all had issues that I mentioned earlier, mostly with walkability and just feeling safe in these areas. And small businesses really faced a tremendous amount of challenges in terms of the financial well-being of their businesses. Would people feel safe with walking these roads to access their businesses? With some of the factors that were going on around smells and garbage, what does that look like when you're going to spend time at any of these local businesses? So at that time, Invest Newark, which is our city's economic development organization, decided to actually move forward and try to do something about this. And so they reached out to a number of partners, which I mentioned earlier, and just kind of try to brainstorm and ideate on how they could move forward and develop something that could be quick to address the issue, but also something that could really benefit long term. And so they discussed a number of ways that they could address these local concerns. And there was talk of a facade development program, but what they decided to do was be creative and pivot a budget that they had set aside to work on these streets and try to do something creative. And in those conversations spurred a public art program. So just going back to the first slide. So the initiative erected a program that drew from contemporary narratives inspired by the historic district of Newark and the surrounding region. There was 14 murals that were actually conceived from this project and these partnerships by over 30 artists and organizations. This is a piece by Gabe Ribeiro of the Newark Project that says Newark is for artists. And I just want to share that in the beginning because I feel like this was really part of the mission and part of the heart of the project. So this is me, hi, and my daughter Adele Ray, who is 1 year old in this picture. She actually turned 1 year old the day that the program started, and we're on site at Treat Place. And so when they decided to move forward with some sort of creative project, they reached out to me, among others, to put in a proposal to create something that had the community in mind when developing it. My background, just a little bit about me, is I'm the co-director of Project for Empty Space. I'm also an educator. I work at Rutgers Newark in the ACM department. And my work, for as long as I can remember, whether I intended it to be or not, has always been about social engagement. And my work at Project for Empty Space specifically has been about working with artists that mandate engagement and that are really trying to catalyze change through art or the lens of art. So in our conversations about moving forward with this project, there was a few things that came up. One, we all knew that we wanted to beautify these areas, and we knew that public art could do that. We also took into consideration some of the things that had been going on that had been challenging for our current arts community with all of this development going on. And so we wanted to create a program that would A, beautify the space, but B, also greatly benefit the local arts community. And that's through creating empowering positions, creating space for multiple artists and organizations to participate, and to address topics and themes that were really important to the community at large. So there was a lot of strategy involved with actually developing this program. We didn't want it to be an offshoot. We didn't want it to be a parachute program. We have issues with some of the language around, creative placemaking when it comes to development. And we wanted to just make sure that we were keeping both audiences and artists in mind instead of just one, or just trying to do something, a quick fix for the street. So when I was brought on, there was a 5-month timeline attached to the project. The project had to be completed in 2019. There was a number of different perimeters attached that had to do with funding, had to do with weather, had to do with immediacy to actually do something about these streets. And then there was this whole other challenge that was layered on top because we were working inside of a historical district. And if any of you have ever worked inside of a historical district, you know that you can't just put up a piece of public art. You can't just throw up a mural. There has to be a number of conversations with the historical district about what it is that you're developing and how that it will enhance, not take away from the beauty of what's already there. So we we came together, we put together a timeline for that 5 months. We were also determined to do an open call. When we talk about equitable programming, we also have to make sure that everybody is aware of it. Everybody has a chance to voice what the needs are for a project like this or what they'd like to see happen. So we opened up an open call that was about 60 days within this 5-month period, so taking up almost 2 months. And as we navigated through this open call, we also decided to do a lot of interfacing with the public to talk about what they would like to see in our public art programs. So we were kind of multitasking in a sense that we were developing a program at a very quick pace, but also trying to sit down, listen, and to hear about what was the best direction for us as a community to move forward with this kind of immediate program. So we had 2 community meetings for residents, artists, anybody that was interested in getting involved in the project. And then we also had a stakeholders meeting for those that had already voiced their concerns about the areas, that had businesses, that had that lived in the area, that went to school or ran some of the schools in the area. And just really took time to open it up and say that the project, although we were moving forward with the open call, had not been completed in its formation. And this was a time that we could kind of bring together ideas and try to make a program that would be for everybody. Other things that we did was really emphasize the idea that you did not have to be a muralist or a professional painter to participate in this program, although that's something that is very, very important and you can't put up a mural without one. We wanted to also give an opportunity for younger artists that might need some mentorship, for youth, or for those that maybe didn't consider themselves a muralist but had something that they could contribute to the program. So for these meetings, we created a program that reflects the needs of everyone that calls Newark home. And a few of the things that came out of those meetings was the need for a more walkable and inviting space, mural narratives that reflect the themes and topics important to the community, education for artists that may be interested but didn't have the experience, more youth opportunities, and well-paying positions with fair contracts. That was something that was reiterated over and over again from our community meetings. Artists need to be valued, they need to be paid fairly, and they also need to have fair contracts that don't take a lawyer to actually maneuver through. One thing that Invest Newark did was, because there were certain clauses that were heavy in language, was they provided a lawyer. So if any of the artists had any questions about the contract, that they'd be able to directly interface a lawyer instead of having to come out of pocket to hire one on their own. And the last thing is programming. There was quite a few people at these meetings that didn't necessarily want to contribute to a mural, but they wanted to know how they might be able to bring music to the street, bring workshops, bring poetry, bring tours, etc. So these are all things that were given as offerings to us that we happily took and have integrated into this program. And so this question comes up often when I speak about the project. What do you want to see in our public art programs? Even in this moment where things have to be put on pause and we have to like just take time to reflect and plan towards the future, I think this is a very important part of it. When we do public art, it's not just about the people that are doing it, it's about the public. And so the public needs to be able to have input. And so this is an ongoing question that we've raised during our community meetings that we have now hosted on our website on the main page as like kind of a call for a response. As we sit still at this moment and plan for the future, what do you want to see in our public art programs? So we had an open call, and from that we chose 30 artists and organizations that pulled together and put up 14 murals in about a month. Here we are, just about a week before we actually started work on Treat Place. And you can see there's a number of artists that if you're from the area, you might be familiar with. There's also a number of organizations here that really stepped up and were either a partner or a sponsor: Sherwin-Williams, the Hanini Group, Wilbur's Painting, a number of different organizations that just kind of pulled their resources together to move forward. So here are our 2019 contributing artists and organizations. Awuma Violet Collective, which includes Fayemi Shakur, who is a dear friend and our newly appointed Director of Arts and Culture for the City of Newark, who's going to be sharing more about this project. The Awuma Violet Collective is comprised of quite a few amazing women poets and visual artists from the city of Newark, and they work together with Laquan Nuna Yar and Kelly Pravard to put up the mural Magnitude and Bond. Armisi Smith, the Barat Foundation with artist Sue Daly, Danielle Politi, Arini Larnadaki, the Discoveries Charter School, who worked with Arini on one of the 2 murals that she executed, Gabe Ribeiro, Jira, Himiden Hoxson, Joel Lopez, Manuel Acevedo, who worked with the Jerry J. Gant Estate and Pink Dragon Syndicate to do a memorial mural, Nancy Salem and Patricia Carzola, Noelle Lorraine Williams, and the Rorschach Art Collective. So this is, I'm going to go through a few of the murals, and I know you saw quite a few of them in the video, but I'm just going to touch on a few of them to talk about kind of the dynamic aspect of collaboration that was infused into this program. This is the Discovery School students, and we did a workshop with participating artist Arini, who does work about collaboration and cultural fabric, and use kente cloth to talk about how our cultures are integrated and interwoven. And so we worked with the students from Discovery Charter School to host a workshop and to create a number of portraits of them that then were collaged and then altered to the digital. So this piece shows portraits of all of them in motion in their collages, and then it was printed on Polytab and placed on our only temporary mural for this project, which is on a scaffold on Beaver Street. And this piece will, when the building does get developed, be taken down and transferred to a permanent space. Manuel Acevedo on the Gantelism dedication. So Manuel is an artist that works between Newark and the Bronx, and he has a long-standing history with this city in terms of creating work, and his studio practice has really been rooted in the city. And earlier, a year prior to this project, we lost a major contributor to our local art scene, Jerry Gant. And so when we decided to do this project, it was really important that we highlighted some of the individuals that contributed so much, that were part of the fabric of this art scene. And so Manuel worked directly with the Jerry Gant estate to source images from his sketchbooks. Some of these are very familiar to the residents of Newark and surrounding areas because they were icons of positivity on our street. And so he created this montage of icons of positivity, and now it lives permanently on Treat Place and is a place for healing and for legacy for Jerry Gant. Him and Hoxton, and their mural was called Migration is the American Way. When we started this project, because of the quick timeline and kind of a very rigid budget that was attached to it, and our need and eagerness to pay artists fairly, we were not sure that we would be able to have any visiting artists from different countries. And just for when you bring in an international artist, you have to think about additional expenses like airfare and housing. But we had this incredible contribution from the Hanini Group from Hotel Indigo, and they were able to sponsor hotel rooms for us. So when we had this proposal came on, which was about the Great Migration and a young woman that would travel to Newark from the South by train, we were really excited to have it. This piece in particular shows this moment of movement and freedom and highlights icons of empowerment and just these familiar moments over here that talk about this travel and some of the revolutionary groups during the Great Migration. Another thing I want to point out about them is they work with stencils. So they took 800 pieces of letter-sized paper and created a stencil by hand to actually erect this project. It was so impressive to watch and really exciting. And so you can see here up in the left-hand corner, both of them on the ground, cutting out piece by piece the stencil that they have actually pulled together with letter-sized pieces of paper. Artists are amazing. This piece by Noelle Lorraine Williams called To Be Seen was mentioned in the video. And so Noelle Lorraine Williams she's so phenomenal. I can't even start to put together words to talk about her, but she is an artist researcher who has been spending time on this street for over a decade. She actually did a series of street interventions over a decade before this project was before this project took place. And so having her back to this street to create a permanent piece of public art was really exciting and wonderful. And she takes these images that were actually taken in and around the Four Corners district in photography studios at the end of the 19th century of Black women during that time. And she takes these images that live only as 2 to 3 inch high archival photos and blows them up to talk about visibility. And our mission when we are retelling the stories of this area is to give visibility to those that were maybe only captured in these 2 to 3 inch high photographs. This piece, there's actually 2 murals here by Armisi Smith and Joelle Lopez, and something that was really important to us as a group was to honor the Lenni Lenape and the native peoples of this area prior to us. And there was a lot of conversations about this, and both of their murals, although they were actually separate proposals, we felt like would be beautiful to live near each other. The piece by Armisi on the left that talks about the native plants of this region and our kind of a mandate for environmental stewardship. And then the one on the right is by Joelle Lopez, which when completed shows a woman Lenape, and he has named her after an icon, the guardian of the city. Something also to note about this is because this is in a historical district, there was details that we wanted to keep in their original historic forms. So if you look over, there is this beautiful detail that we just power washed with historical district perimeters and cleaned up to live prominently when implementing the murals. This piece is by Jira, who is an incredible artist that was born and raised here in Newark, and her family is still living here, although she does travel the world and contributes beautiful murals all over. This piece in particular speaks about water. At the time of this actually happening, there was a large amount of controversy and dialogue about water and safety, access, and how those things play a role in this basic need. And so this piece was offered as a piece of healing that was abstractly talking about water and how community, when brought together, can become stronger, and lives on the corner of Beaver and Market Street. This piece was done by the Barrett Foundation, who is a local organization that really focuses on public art and education. They host an annual public art parade here in Newark and have done quite a few murals and create these sculptures called animadules that live throughout Newark. This piece in particular speaks about the Underground Railroad and highlights quilts that were used for messaging. There's also little parts that are scattered throughout the street that show Harriet Tubman and the Sacred Church of Newark. Sacred Heart Church of Newark. And one more before I hand this over to Fayemi to talk about magnitude and bond. This is the work of Patricia Carzola and Nancy Salem, and they were really inspired by the retailers of Newark, as well as some of the colors that you might find, the palettes that are thriving from some of these retailers. They also were really inspired by Jacob Lawrence's series, The Great Migration, and so they call this piece Wrapping Beaver Street, and it takes up a full block of sidewalk. And so now I am really thrilled to talk about one more mural and introduce, well, she's already been introduced, but hand it over to Fayemi Shakur.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good afternoon, everyone. So magnitude and bond, I should say first, comes from a quote by poet Gwendolyn Brooks. And the quote is, "We are each other's business. We are each other's harvest. We are each other's magnitude and bond." Next slide. So Magnitude and Bond is a 10 stories high collaborative mural located on Halsey Street in Newark's historic downtown district. And it features two key figures really important to our artist community. The first, the largest, is Gladys Barker Grauer. She passed away last year just before we began the project. She was, I believe, 90 years old, 92 when she passed. She was our oldest living artist, the first artist to open a gallery in Newark, which was a Black-owned gallery, and she was also the city's first muralist. We call her the mother of Newark arts. The other key figure is Bria Knight, and Bria was a young hairstylist and also a phenomenal poet and wordsmith. Who was important not just to our artist collective, but also our community at large. So the mural contains imagery that celebrates their significant contributions to our community, using visual language to provide a sense of intergenerational and communal connection as a unifying force and source of power and healing. A Room of Violets started actually as a book. I had a residency at Project for Empty Space in 2019 that started in February. And even though it was a residency for me, one of the things I started to think about was how we use residence, how I could use the residency in a different way to create space and a safe space for other Black women artists, Black women who I knew in our community who made incredible contributions to our artist community, but maybe people haven't quite picked up on the work, their individual work that they do. Especially their lived experiences through their poetry. So Rebecca shared that they had just gotten a lithograph machine and that we had the ability to create books if we wanted to. And so I decided that we would create a book and I would invite a collective of Black women artists, with about 15 of us, to contribute images and poetry. The book is 146 pages, and that's the cover there by Adama Delphine Pwandu, um, Black woman photographer who I really admire and respect. And we felt that image really captured the energy of um, Black women's lives. So, what informed my idea to create this safe space was this photograph. It features Toni Morrison and Ntozake Shange, June Jordan, and Angela Davis, Alice Walker. They're all featured here in Alice Walker's apartment. Also, Toni Kari Bambara. These are Black feminist thinkers who really informed my ideas about womanism and Black feminism. And I was super curious about this photograph and the idea that they kind of met together in Alice Walker's apartment just as to check in on each other. I've read a few stories about how sometimes Toni Morrison might call and check on Toni Kari Bambara and ask her if she had any groceries. And Toni at the time was an editor at Random House, and she was probably the most established of the group. And she'd use her position and money she received to support her fellow women writer friends. But they'd also use the space in Alice's apartment just to talk about community and politics and what issues that they wanted to share and felt like were important to communicate through their work and their practice. I was profoundly inspired by that. And so these are some of the women in Newark who I felt captured some of that same energy, who are amazing poets. Mia X, Jasmine Mans, um, Angela Pilgrim, Jillian Rock, Tara Davis, Queen Moore, Chakaya Norris, Kayla, Bimpe Fagayembo, Kay Desiree Millwood. These women have contributed significantly to our poetry and artist community. So we recreated our own image of our collective, which we called A Womb of Violet, which started as just the title of the book, but later morphed into a collective of ourselves. And we took this photo at the Newark Public Library, which seemed appropriate. And it was taken by photographer Dominique DeRosa, who is also a Newark-based artist. A really important part of the collective, as Rebecca said, was community engagement and participation. And in the center, you'll see a woman in purple, and that is Bria Knight's mother. She and others from the community were invited to join us for a community painting day, which was a really enjoyable experience to share with children and all types of people, people who didn't consider themselves artists, who wanted to make a contribution and contribute to the mural. And what they painted were the cowrie shells that are the foundation at the lower end of the mural. And they painted different messages on there and designs. And so we had two painting days on a Saturday and Sunday. Cold days, we had hot chocolate, and folks just came and we painted together in community. And this is what the mural looks like. So you see there Gladys Brower, the largest key figure, kind of like a mother mountain. This mural was conceived by Owoma Violet. We met, we created the proposal, we thought about what story did we want to tell and what were the key images that were important to us to share. So you'll see we worked with LaCroix and also Kelly to share these ideas. And they then contributed their own ideas based on the ideas of strength and resiliency that we wanted to share, while also honoring these two women. Kelly decided that she was going to put Bria Knight, you'll see at the bottom left, in armor, because her last name is Knight. But that also conveys a type of warrior energy. And then on the left-hand side, we have an image, I'm sorry, the right-hand side at the bottom, we have an image by Queen Moore, which she had taken of young girls in Haiti. And you see they're staring back, curiously, but also determined. And we like that imagery as well, creating that intergenerational kind of dialogue about how we're all interconnected, talking about this bond that exists in our community and how one generation impacts and is influenced by another, but also honoring women's lived experiences as well. It also features African fabric and also cotton, which is also a symbolism of the Black experience, as well as nature was important to us. And then, of course, the poem by Lucille Clifton, which was featured in blue. It's Won't You Celebrate With Me by Lucille Clifton. We took a line from that and included it. Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life I had no model, born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. What did I see to be except myself? I made it up. Here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight, my other hand, come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. And so that last line is what we decided to feature in the mural. And I'm so grateful to LaCroix and Kelly. It was important. We wanted to include a Black woman artist, and Kelly didn't have experience previously working on a mural of this size. And LaCroix, who has done work internationally, served as a kind of mentor for Kelly. And we were really excited to see how their collaboration came together.
Thank you so much, Fayemi. So what is next for Four Corners Public Arts? We completed this in mid-November of last year, and again, never wanted this to be an like a one-time thing or a parachute project. It was really important for us to create a program with longevity. And so the partners are committed to continuing to do this work. And at this moment, like all of us, we're kind of in a moment of reflection and trying to figure out post-COVID how we'll go upon this work, knowing that when we do come out of this, we will need art more than ever, and it will be not only a catalyst for all of the things that we've been talking about in this entire presentation, but also for healing at that moment. And so these are some of the growth objectives that we had prior to what's going on now. And I'm just going to read them and then share a final thought before the Q&A. So we want to continue to beautify space in the Four Corners Historic District, and of course beyond, but this group is doing most of their work and has, in terms of the real estate owners, they occupy space in that Four Corners area. And so that's the focal point for them, and provide paid empowering positions for local artists and organizations. They want to continue to build upon Phase 1's mission, looking to histories of these areas and to activate these areas through storytelling or retelling, and narrative. And then embed a social engagement component into the program that is larger than the first round. I feel like Fayemi's A Womb of Violets mural really captures the type of collaboration that we want to see in every single public art piece that we go upon. And so there will be a call for artists that is put out that also mandates a collaborative element. So it will be twofold in its mission. And then to educate, to continue to do education. So in the first round, we had a number of different resources for education that spanned from matching younger artists with more established artists that could mentor them through developing something that was new or larger than they had done before. We had also done a number of workshops with the library that assisted in helping others access archives and taught about artist research and what that looks like. And so we want to continue to have this educational component and to continue to provide workshops to educate stakeholders in public engagement techniques and to provide space and programs to learn about participatory strategies and how and what that looks like to elevate local voices. And then to continue to open up a wealth of participation opportunities, we did the 2 community painting days with Awuma Violet during the first phase. Arini held a couple workshops for her piece with Discovery Charter School, but we want to really expand upon that now that we have more time to think about strategy and how to include as many people as possible in the next phase. And so we'll end here with an image of Daniela Politi's sidewalk mural that was shared in the video that says, "All are welcome." And just one thing I'd love to share before we get to the Q&A, if you are interested in learning more, there is a website that's up. It's fourcornerspublicarts.org. Right now, as we pause and plan, the prompt, what do you want to see in our public art programs, is up on the website, and you can share through a form. But if you also enter the website, you can read more extensively about each artist, their location, and the story that they're telling. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Fahimi and Rebecca. If you could turn your cameras back on so we can be 3 little talking heads, that would be great. So yeah, I definitely want to dive into some Q&A. We have about like 10 or 15 minutes to review. Before we go forward, I just want to say, I know that I didn't say this at the beginning, so I apologize, but this is being recorded and will be emailed to anyone who's registered, and will also be on our website at nextcity.org/webinars for future reference. Great. So I just want to start with a question, something that you kind of ended on a little bit, Rebecca, about like how do we continue with these kind of public art programs during COVID-19. And so I just wanted to ask if you've seen any kind of public arts initiatives that have moved digitally during this time. You know, either of you, and like what does that look like, and what does that look like moving forward?
I guess I can chime in here. I've seen a remarkable amount of digital activations that I am really every day in awe of. I know that it has to be tremendously challenging for everybody to kind of pivot and take plans that were already solidified and kind of reshape those for a different type of convening or type of activation. For us, really, we were hoping to be embarking on the second phase, picking up on the momentum of the first phase during this time. And so for us, especially because we are a partnership that all has different organizations that are going through different challenges all at the same time, what we're really trying to do is just think about how we can move forward in a way that can be even more impactful than we originally thought to do so, and take this time to strategize and just to listen more. And that's what the flash page or landing page on the website is. Because we can't have community meetings right now where we can interface with each other and talk about how we're going to move forward with the second phase. And maybe we will do some virtual components of that, but right now there's kind of this open space for people to contribute their ideas that we can continue to ideate and brainstorm for the future.
Yeah, I think I'm really honoring the pause and this time for reflection and thinking about what it means to react versus respond. And so we don't want to move too quickly. It's such a sacred time to consider the lives that are impacted right now. We probably had 8 million stories that we could tell before this crisis. And just to consider how many more stories we're going to tell after this can be deeply transformative for the way we think about what public art will be when we're in a recovery phase and how that can help our communities heal.
Yeah.
Great. I have another COVID-19 question, but want to jump to some of the questions that are being answered by our question by our audience. And there's a few here that are talking about funding, specifically, how did you receive funding? How did the reach out and start to that look like? And I guess also confirming that, you know, you were able to pay your artists and like, what did that kind of setup look like?
Sure. So there's a couple, this was a really creative project, even when it came to funding. And when I mentioned public-private partnership, that also kind of indicates that funding was pulled from both the private and the public entities. And so there was some money contributed by the city of Newark that was allocated for their public art program, which we were completely grateful. So that was kind of the public end. And then the private end, there was funding that had been allocated for facade repair from the real estate and development partners that was contributed to this project. So funding that was initially was going to be just to repair these facades. And so that was kind of pivoted and then used to fund the program. And so that's where the private end comes in. Because we were working on a really tight turnaround time and we wanted to do something ambitious, we had an incredible sponsorship from Sherwin-Williams. They donated over 250 gallons of paint, as well as all of the materials that we used in terms of application. And so there was an in-kind donation from them that we could not have done this program without. It was really important that we paid our artists and we paid them substantially for their time, as well as took care of things like daily meals. So every day there was a meal that was either provided by a partner or sponsored from a local restaurant, yet another way to get involved from a different type of engagement. So there was a number of different local restaurants that contributed meals every day so that the artists didn't have to come out of pocket to even eat. And so we tried to take care of almost everything and then pay the artists well as take care of insurance and any sort of legal interfacing that they had to do. I've done a number of these programs in the past, and it was really important for me at this moment because we had such a creative partnership that really was interested in listening and doing something that would elevate rather than just get the job done. It was really important for me and for them to do something that the artists could be really proud and felt well taken care of leaving. So I hope that covers all the aspects.
I think it does, Rebecca, but I also think that your connection and your rootedness to not just the arts community, but the business community really led to the success of the project. And I just think that's important for viewers to understand that when you're embarking on these public art projects, it's so important to have people who are leading it and managing the project who are truly rooted in the community, who know all the players.
Yeah, I mean, another just like small piece of the pie that I could share is like hotel fees. We, the Hanini Group, sponsored hotels for our international artists that would have cost thousands of dollars. So it was just really about outreach and pulling people in that wanted to be a part of this anyways and giving them opportunities to give what they could give. So there was financial contributions, but there was also in-kind and support contributions. And then artists also, you know, while we really wanted to take care of them, they wanted to take care of us. So there was artists that were bringing meals in on their own or trying to just take care of each other. It was truly a collaborative project, and I say that often and over again, but I don't know how we would have pulled it off without um, that type of synergy together.
Thank you. Yeah. I want to leave now just to, we have about like 4 minutes to wrap up, but there's one question or a few questions here that was kind of about engaging community, and specifically one, how did you engage like maybe non-English speaking communities? Were there any, what challenges were there, and what did you find in success in being able to bridge any communication gaps there?
Sure. So when we do projects like this, we want them to be inclusive, obviously. There's limitations that all of us individually might have in terms of doing that. And that's why having a partnership and having a larger group kind of manage this project is really important. While I did lead it, we did have 2 international artists that didn't necessarily speak English, and I'm very lucky to have a husband that could communicate with them. But we need to make efforts to figure out that that type of outreach. We can't limit ourselves because of our own limitations. We have to find ways to actually practice inclusivity rather than just talking about it. So I think, you know, identifying our own limitations and then bringing other people in to continue to service everybody is really important.
Awesome. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. We're kind of at the hour mark. And so I just wanted to thank both Fayemi and Rebecca for your time today and for this presentation. There are a lot of great questions. Can I direct folks just to the For Public Arts project website to maybe follow up if they have questions for you both?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, so yeah, encourage folks to check that out. And yeah, thanks for joining us today for this webinar. Again, the recording will be emailed to you and will be on Next City's webpage. So feel free to come back and watch this. We have enough time now to watch as many webinars as we'd like. So encourage you to do that. And thank you for your time. I hope you all have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Okay, everybody.